Hey guys, today I wanted to talk to you about 5 of my favourite urban sketching books, or at least the 5 books that got me really hooked into urban sketching. So like kind of my biggest influences. So I am going to start off with the book that started it all for me, really, is this book called An Illustrated Life by Danny Gregory. So I remember getting this I think for Christmas one year, at my request, of course. And it was just my most exciting present. I think I just sat for the whole rest of the day, or at least in stolen moments, just leafing through it. It's how I heard of most of my favourite artists. And yeah, I was just like pretty obsessed with it. So it gave me loads of inspiration. It made me realise that my sketches don't have to be perfect. It inspired me to pick up a pen, some watercolours, my sketchbook, and start drawing everyday things. So in this book, Danny Gregory shares the work of sketchbook artists that record their life in their sketchbook, in whatever means, whatever mediums. And a lot of the people in the book are either massive influences on him and his heroes. So like Robert Crumb, for example. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. And some of them are good friends of his. And he's just kind of reached out to all kinds of artists across the field that all record their lives in their sketchbooks. So it's just a massively inspiring book. If you don't already have this one, I really recommend it. It's quite a substantial book. It will take you a good amount of time to look through this and read everything if you're so inclined. I don't think I've read the whole thing yet, but I've looked through it multiple times. And actually, when I returned to the UK a few weeks ago, it was the first book I picked up from my bookshelf because I was just desperate to look at it again. So you won't be disappointed if you get this book, I'm sure. I think there are a few others in the series. The one that springs to mind is An Illustrated Journey. I don't actually have that book, and I haven't even looked at. I've never looked through it or anything. But seeing as how much I love this book and I love travel sketching, I probably should buy that. I don't know why I haven't. It's strange. The next book I want to talk to you guys about, which I'm sure pretty much all of you are going to have in your own collection, and if you don't, get it immediately, is The Art of Urban Sketching, put together by the man, the OG, Gabriel Campanario, the guy who started it all in terms of coining the phrase urban sketching, at least anyway. People have been urban sketching for years, if not centuries, but he's the man that's kind of galvanised the movement of urban sketching and kind of brought the community together, which is awesome. So this book takes us around the world and shows different artists in many different countries around the world and their work. So we go through the Americas, North and South. No Central America represented there. That's interesting, didn't notice that before. Anyway, and then obviously Europe, Africa, Australia, Asia, etc. So, as you can see, there's not too much in the way of representation in Africa. We do have Johannesburg down here though, which is pretty cool. And that's how I learned of Kathy Gatland, whose work is featured here in the Johannesburg section. And it's really cool because when I went for the meetup for the Urban Sketchers Johannesburg, Kathy was there. There was only 3 of us, but it's kind of mid-COVID really, so it was awesome to meet Kathy because I was like, you're in this book. That's so cool. So yeah, that was nice. Really recommend this book, seeing artists from all over the world, seeing people's different styles, but also a bit of armchair travel as well. You know, if you've never visited Glasgow, you can see it in sketchbook form. So yeah, super interesting, and there's information from the different sketches it's featured. So here in Barcelona we've got the man Lapan. It tells you what materials they've used in each of the sketches and kind of how long it took, which I find pretty interesting. And then right at the back it's got a bit of an inspirational section where it talks about sketching buildings and monuments and sketching people in the subway, sketching waterfronts, sketching events and drawing at night and all that kind of thing. So again, another really substantial book. It's a nice big format, so you can see the pictures really nicely. Again, I'm sure most of you will have this book, but if not, it's totally worth it, and do definitely check it out. By the way, I have the links to all these books below. The next book I want to mention is by an illustrator called Tommy Kane, and it's called All My Photographs Made with Pens, and that's Tommy on the back there. I'm not sure how I first heard of Tommy Kane, but he's definitely a good friend of Danny Gregory's, and he is featured in this book, so maybe that's where I picked up his name. But if not, definitely from Sketchbook School, because Tommy did do a bit of, I think he was a teacher in one of the courses there, which I may not have seen, but I definitely have seen some of the smaller videos, maybe on YouTube. He has got one on cross-hatching, which I quite enjoyed. I absolutely am in love with Tommy Kane's work. It is amazing. Even just opening the book on the cover, you look at all these cameras, they're just amazing. And Tommy works in the advertising world. I think he's must be a creative director or something, I suppose. But I guess that's how him and Danny Gregory know each other, because I'm sure Danny Gregory worked in the advertising field too. And you can see, obviously, maybe when he's bored on a shoot or something, he's like drawing the photographers and some of the models that he's worked with as well, and keeping a bit of a diary, and that's kind of really what inspired me first off. It's almost like just a visual diary, and I've really kind of lost that over the last few years, that feeling of just recording life and have it being a bit of a visual journey. And coming back here and sort of having these books around me again, and also listening to an interview with Roisin Curé on the Sneaky Artist podcast, which if you haven't listened to yet, please do, because I forget the host's name, I'll write it below, but he interviews all of the kind of big names in urban sketching, and they're nice long form interviews as well, like an hour and a half plus. So I interviewed Roisin Curé, an Irish urban sketcher, and she was describing her journey of how she was in the creative field and she was illustrating already, but how Danny Gregory and his book Everyday Matters actually galvanised her to realise what was missing from like her creative practice, or which direction she should be sort of heading in. And it was just funny because I just feel like so many urban sketchers, especially of like a certain age range or the time that they got into urban sketching, can always track it back to Danny Gregory. So he's just like such an inspirational person in this whole kind of movement, of sketching your everyday life. And I haven't got Danny Gregory's book Everyday Matters in this list. I do have it, but I haven't got it here because it was something I came to later. I definitely discovered him and sketching every day from this book, and then it was only after that I learnt of Danny Gregory's story and the other book. I've got a few of his books actually. I got the Creative License as well, and to be honest, I just mainly like looking at his illustrations because he's just got such a quirky style that it makes you feel less intimidated to pick up your own pen. It's so great to look at, but you also think, oh, it's not perfect, so I don't need to be perfect, so I could actually do this, which I think is always super inspiring. So back to Tommy Kane then. I mean, this book is just awesome. It's hardback, it's a big book, it's a big format. You can see all of his sketches amazingly. They've been reproduced absolutely beautifully. You can see every detail, and I just love that. I've realised that I love books that are featuring sketchbooks. They need to be large format like this, because that's the main issue I have with the Urban Sketching Handbook series, is that they're just too small and I can't see the pictures well enough. I can't see the sketches that I'm supposed to be looking at. I can't see them enough. Maybe that's just because getting old and my eyesight's not good, but I like have the book here and I'm trying to look at these pictures I want to see the details, I want to see how they did it, you know, and I just can't see that with those books. So the next book I want to mention is Coastline by David Gentleman. David Gentleman is a British illustrator. I think he's quite old now, quite old / possibly dead. I don't want to say he's dead if he's not dead, but let's go with one of those. I'll correct myself in the subtitles below. But yeah, it's quite difficult. Well, I found it quite hard not hard, but this is not like a book I bought brand new. I bought it secondhand from like the Amazon used kind of marketplace book thing. So at least if you're in the UK, it is there available to buy secondhand. I guess maybe it's out of print or something. So I'm not sure how you get on buying this in other parts of the world. But yeah, it's basically a book of David Gentleman's travels around the edge of the UK, and he's sketched the coastline of the edge of the island. So I just find it absolutely fascinating, mainly because I haven't been to half the places in this book, but I have lived in some of them, which is quite nice. But I just love the way he handles cliffs and hills and other things that I find incredibly hard to draw or know how to tackle. You know, he does have architecture and boats and all kinds of bits and bobs in here, but I just find it particularly interesting how he tackles these kinds of scenes. I just find it fascinating. I guess because it's the kind of landscape that I'm so used to here, I just find it really interesting as to how he's actually achieved it. I mean, look at this beach kind of scene with all the wooden posts and stuff. It's just amazing. So yeah, I've been really, the last few weeks I've been really studying this book to kind of understand how he represents these kinds of subject matters, because I find it really difficult. So I'm kind of really looking at how he uses his pen to create textures and how he kind of does, you know, rocks and mountains and cliffs and hillsides and makes them look interesting, basically. So again, this is a huge book. It's a massive format, maybe A4 size, maybe slightly bigger. And I just absolutely love looking through it. I don't have any other of David Gentleman's books, but I really want to get some more. Got quite a few. He's got one about London. He's got another one about Britain, which is more inland, I guess. I think he's got one of Paris. Yeah, loads. So I do want to get my hands on those. But yeah, certainly for me, this really captured my imagination. It was definitely, I was really happy I got it. So the final book I want to mention, I'm just mentioning 5 in this video because I just wanted to keep it pretty concise. And these certainly are the 5 books that I just really was obsessed with when I first got into urban sketching, or sketching my everyday life, should I say. So the final book is by Liz Steele, who's an absolute hero of mine. I absolutely love her work. It just makes me really interested that she's from an architectural background, so therefore you'd think she'd be quite like tight and realistic and stuff, yet her work is so loose and expressive, and it's something just I really aspire to. Just even this sketch of Tower Bridge on the front of this book is just really cool, just really loose, you know. So yeah, this is her book, 5-minute sketching architecture, super quick techniques for amazing drawings. So the word super quick always piqued my interest because we always like that. So this does feature a lot of Liz's work, but also features other people's work as well, other urban sketchers' work. And she goes through things like, you know, perspective, measurements, and like keeping things in proportion, how to kind of work through perspective without, like, you know, agonizing over drawing guidelines and stuff like that. And she talks about the kind of technical bits of architecture as well, like the terminology, what things are called. And then she talks about things like using minimal lines, which I'm really interested in. Things, and then using different materials like watercolour pencils and markers and that kind of thing. So I just feel like this is a really useful, almost like textbook, and it's one that I'm just going to keep coming back to again and again. Yeah, she's got even a bit on interior spaces as well, quite a bit on simple skylines. I just think for the size of this book, which I guess it's bigger than A5, let's see, that's about A4, or maybe it's about A5 size, and it's not thick, but it's just absolutely packed with like useful tips and practical ways to get sketching and kind of keeping things loose and stuff. And it's from someone like Liz Steele, who definitely knows what she's talking about. So again, this book is definitely one that I would encourage you to add to your collection if you're into sketching architecture. If you like Liz Steele's work, this is the book. So I hope you have enjoyed this video, guys. A bit of a different format for me. It's nice to, now and again, I like to show my face to you guys and talk to you directly. So I've really enjoyed talking to you about my 5 favourite books, or the books that got me hooked on urban sketching. I'd be super interested to know if you've got any of these books, or what your favourite books are, or what got you really into urban sketching. Do list them below, because I'd love to discover some other books. So it'd be really cool to hear from you guys on this. I do have the links for these 5 books below. I also have a post on my website. I don't know why I felt confused about that. I do have a post on my website listing a lot of my favourite urban sketching books, so you can check that out as well. The link will be in the description below. And do remember to check out my own book as well if you want to do a bit of armchair travelling. It's over 130 of my ink and watercolour sketches from 3 years of my travels around the world. And also, if you're interested in learning how I sketch and my process, then I have a whole online course on how I've created these sketches, and I actually use some of the sketches from my book as well. So all the links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in the next one.